about European Union can only appear in Germany or under the German influence. In the years in the 1980s, it was common that on the international conferences, only Germans referred to themselves as Europeans, whereas all the other participants were only referring to themselves to their respective nations. So Belgians were presenting themselves as Belgians, Poles as Poles, Spaniards as Spaniards, and so on. The same with French, the British. Only Germans very often, not always, but very often presented themselves as mostly European. Of course it has something to do with the German guilt for the war and so on, but it also has something to think that the Germans really believe in Europe, and perhaps they believe too much in Europe, and that's the problem. What I mean here, I understand the German hyper-optimism, because nowadays we can see that in the last decade or 12 years or something like that, the German economy was really booming, and the French and British not so much. So we have, for the first time in European history since Renaissance times maybe, we have a situation in which, even in Renaissance times, it was not so. And what I mean is that the German economy is almost as big as the French and the British economies combined. This is something new, and I can understand that it can be the source of hyper-optimism for Germany and Germans. Also in context of the European ideas. And I can understand that they can think that they can afford building an empire between the American and Chinese empires, and to pick and choose some elements of cooperation between the two other empires. And I see that they think that they will be able to do so. And what I fear is they won't be able to do so. Because what's the problem is, the size of the American and Chinese empires, the sheer size would be always bigger, because we know that Germany can only gather some states and nations in Europe for their project, European project, really. If they really want to make this European project more advanced, they will only have some of the European nations on this side, not all of them. So whatever they will propose and whatever team they will end up with will be always smaller than the sheer size of Chinese politics and economy and American politics and economy. Especially, and I'm not referring to Brexit only, I'm referring to the problem in general. Europe was politically never really united. Never. Never. Because, for instance, in Roman times, only the southern part of Europe was united, but with the parts of today's Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, right? So not really a European unification. In Frankish times, with more or less the EEC, like with France, Benelux, Italy, Germany. But we don't have anything else. So not really unification of Europe, right? So Europe was never united, and I think can't be really united. The fear, only the fear of the German economy becoming as big as two other biggest economies, the second and the third economies, namely of course French and British combined, only this fear, this new situation can block the real unification, and will probably. So it's no problem, right? So that this is the crazy idea, so they won't do it anyway. No, but they won't